Easy E, how are we?
Shawnee, I have escaped Doha. I am not that I'm a criminal or wanted. I've done 137 or 8 days straight of work, and I'm back in Dubai. I slept for 14 hours, Sean.
Nice.
I tell you what, I didn't think I was struggling as much as I was, but yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to be back with my good gym and my comfy bed, and yeah, it's a nice feeling. But you've been busy.
I've been busy. I'll stop you there for a real second, though. I want to talk about me, but I want to talk to you for a second because we talk to different people in the podcast, and they mention like you're in Doha and stuff. It's like you're living the life over there, pal. And you start this episode by "I have escaped the life," Eric. It doesn't make any sense. The good weather and stuff. The weather's taking a turn over here. You're getting the heat over there. You're flying for a living. What's going on, man?
Look, I don't know if anyone is listening has ever traveled abroad for the sole purpose of contract work, as in you fly in, fly out, and like in the commercial element, it's all about money. And the cheaper the accommodation is, the more profits they have. The harder they work you, the more flying hours, the better their profits. Because they pay you daily. So if they can get 3 flights out of you every day, they make more money, So yeah, like everyone's like, oh, what's it like living in Doha? It's like, I don't know. I pretty much live in Saudi Arabia. I live 40 minutes away from the city. Like it's just where they had me housed for the last little while. And yeah, you're there to work. You're not there to be pampered, and I suppose that's one thing. Like, no disrespect to some of the school teachers, but school teachers' accommodation is unbelievable.
I'm so jealous.
I am very jealous, but they are more living in the city. They have more of that social life. They have weekends. We only have one day off a week, so it's, and on that one day, you don't really want to do anything because you're wrecked from the week before. And then, so where we lived, I was miles and miles from anywhere important, really. And I just had the same 1 kilometer loop around the accommodation campus, for want of a better word. And you'd the mosque, you'd the ATM, you'd the front gate all beside my bedroom. So call to prayer, for those who don't know, in the summertime is at 3:30. So every night I was awake at 3:30. And it's just different. And the cars are trying to knock you down, and it was, but I became kind of the local lunatic, I suppose. I was literally the only white man in the whole place. So I became pretty famous pretty quick, walking and running my lap pretty much every night. But it is nice to be back into your own familiar kind of world, like the bed you wanted, not the bed someone gave you. It's just,
yeah,
it is nice. The gym you picked, not the gym you have to use, or the road you have to run. So yeah, in that regard, it was just a long time. I was for nearly 5 months straight, so 6 days a week. But yeah, like it's good. Slept well, and now it's time to shift my focus for the next 6 weeks. I'm off for 5.5 weeks now, so it's all about me for the next 6 weeks. And the treadmills are coming back, and the indoor training facilities are coming back because the treadmills actually work. So, but yeah, look, it's good. People can probably hear it in my voice that I'm just excited. I'm excited for the next 6 weeks. And yeah, it's going to be a nice training. And I'll take a holiday in between, but it's still good. It is still good.
Good. Glad to hear it. You probably don't know this about Ireland because you've been gone for so long. But a weird fact about Ireland is that Naas has the longest ring road in the world.
I have ran that ring road and cycled that ring road so many times.
It never ends.
Painful. And you just think, I must have covered about 10K, 1K in. Oh my God.
So I did this week. I did after doing the Naas 10K, and for the main reason, just I left the medal in the car just to show you the medal and the globe spinning, being like, look at this thing I get for a 10K. But I wanted to challenge myself and try and get a PB. But at the same time, with the marathon coming up, I stupidly ran 28K the day before. But I'm like, I could definitely go for a good time. Yeah, I was like, tired legs. We'll see what happens. At the same time, I was like, maybe PB because I'm doing more intervals and stuff. But yeah, no, great setup until I got into that ring road. And just the wind. I thought the wind was at me. It was fairly windy, yeah. It was open. I thought it was so windy.
So bad.
All the way down past the Applegreen and stuff in the end. And then there's a final turn left. And I'm like, grand, I'm off the ring road. It's another ring road,
It's another
except the
ring road.
wind is right at your
Right in
face.
your face. Yeah.
But
It's awful. It's so exposed. Not the race itself, just when it is a windy day and you go on that and it's a real mind boggle because you're like, yeah, I'll hold 5 minute Ks. And as soon as you hit that wind, you're like, forget about it.
that's
Forget
exactly.
about it.
So I was listening to the reels got up this week on Dave McCarthy talking about like going on race field. And I knew 3-4K in, I was like, this is not happening PB day. So I stopped looking at the watch. I looked at it once, it buzzed for 7K. I'm like, oh, I did that split. But I just went on field the whole way through and just trying to get through the wind and just see where I was at. And then I got to the final turn and I turned in just, it was around 100 meters to the finish line. And I just saw the clock tick past 45. Or just 2:45. And I was like, oh, so close, sub 45. And it was actually the first time I finished a race in a while, just been like, oh, I'm not really happy with that time. But then I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, Seán, the goal's the marathon. So to do a 28K the day before and get to 10K, I was pretty happy out now as we're 4 weeks out from Dublin. And the medal's gorgeous. It is one of the best 5K, 10K medals in the country.
Yeah, and it does make a difference. I know. And a lot of people, like, it's amazing what I suppose people want value for money. Okay. So when you're getting a goodie bag, and I still talk about my try a tie goodie bag from the first triathlon I ever did. It was amazing because I paid a lot and I was like, oh, this race is expensive. But I got so much back. And when you've got so much participants, like, what, you're getting these things from China for like a couple of euros a piece, you know. So it's more than paid for, but it's that feeling of, wow, this is cool. This is worth whatever money I paid because I got the medal. It's a well organized race as well, which is really, really good. And for you, it's local, which it's good. And it's accessible for a lot of people. Naas is one of those places that is pretty accessible for a lot of people and plenty of parking in and around. And yeah, it is good.
Yeah, by the way, I paced it with the boss lady, the girl I work with in Clane, Roisin, and kept up with the first 3K. And off she went, just straight on to get third female passing through the 10K finish line. So congrats to her on that one. Did not get to see her pass the finish line at the end because I was well and truly back from that stage. She did class. And speaking about you getting a bit excited there and you get back to Dubai now from Doha and you're feeling good. This episode of the podcast was the first time where there was in a while where different people talk about different challenges and I hear about like long distance challenges. I'm like, maybe that one. But the Hyrox, I think, has finally twisted your arm to go, you know what? This could be up my alley to try someday. Tell me I'm telling lies.
No, and maybe people can tell us after this if someone else has this fail. Maybe it's just Seán selling the next guest. No, definitely there's something about it that when our last guest was on, I liked the idea of it. When I heard you first talking about it, I was like, ooh, it sounds like CrossFit. And the more I learned about it and the more I opened up my eyes, so I was like, actually, this is probably really suited to me. And if I gave this a go for a little while, I'd probably be average at it. You know, not terrible, but I'd probably be average and enjoy it. And I see a lot of people getting a lot of enjoyment out of it and physically looking very well and mentally doing really well. And it's just like, yeah, okay, between marathons and stuff, it could be really good because it is endurance based. So yeah, I tried to start while I was in Doha and I went to 2 different gyms and the equipment that was prescribed couldn't be found. So it was kind of a bit of a disaster, but now that I'm back, I'm looking forward to giving a week or two of a kind of a foundation. See if I actually like it. But equally scared because I haven't done this in a while, you know, and it's easy to put on the headphones and go to run a 10K than it is to, okay, let's have a look at this. But this one's a really, really good episode. And I suppose, Seán, I was still confused coming into this episode. So probably best to describe people some foundational information so they can best listen to this episode.
Yeah, so Hyrox, like you said, is endurance based. So it is a 1K run followed by some sort of fitness station and back to a 1K run. And you do 8 different stations and 8 runs. But like you said at the start there, it's not CrossFit. You always know what's coming. You always know it's a 1,000-meter ski. It's always something that's very manageable that you could do. So like sometimes if you do CrossFit, you could have like handstand walks or swims or just something mad different things, or Olympic lifts and stuff that can be very technical. Hyrox is not necessarily technical, so it's very open for like pretty much anyone can do them. Like once you're able to lunge, and it's not easy. Like burpee broad jumps, it's not easy. So, but the stations always stay the same no matter what category. It's important to know in this one, there's two different levels. There's an open level that all of us do, and then there's the pro level that Seán does. And the only difference is the weights of the wall balls, the weights of the sleds, the weights in your back doing walking lunges are that little bit heavier. So we hear Seán talk about pro. All the difference is the event's harder. It's still 1K runs and stuff in between. And then you've got different weights between men and female in terms of open and pro. But Seán is just someone who's just took to this like a duck to water. And in this episode, when it was done, I was a lot more excited about doing my first Hyrox event after this. But like yourself, it took a couple of times for people to talk to me about it and go, this is something that you might be good at, or this is something you might enjoy. And I was like, I don't know about this. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're looking for a goal after a Dublin marathon, this could be it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something I've definitely considered and I've said openly, I'm a fair weather athlete. It's something that can keep me indoors through the winter, but by no means keeping it easy. And it definitely will give me what I envisage it doing is giving me that added extra, because I love my weight training, but when I run longer, I neglect it, because I've ran for 2 hours. I don't want to go lift weights. Whereas this is still combining the two and giving it best. So when we've had episodes where people have said, oh, you need to shorten it down in the winter, work on your speed, I'm like, well, I have got just the thing. And that's the way I see it. And I hope people kind of see it in that regard. And it is one of the fastest growing sports in the world, or competitions in the world. So definitely one to keep an eye on. This is definitely an excellent episode with a phenomenal athlete. And we really hope people getting something out of it will get something out of it and have their eyes opened or their ears open to other possibilities and other sports that are out there.
And with that said, it's this week's episode of the Any Given Runday Podcast. Let's go. So this week on the Any Given Runday Podcast, we have the winner of the Hyrox Pro event in Dublin last year, winner of Hyrox Pro London 2024, and second place finisher of the Hyrox Pro World Championships this year, Seán Noble. Welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday Podcast. How are you getting on?
Good. Thanks for having me.
This is usually the point where Eric says, how did this all start and stuff like that. But right before we do, I want to set the scene a little bit. Seán, how many...
Talk about ruining me.
No, I just want to get something just out of the way real quick here, because you've had 2 number 1 places, you've second place in World Championships. How many Hyrox events have you had?
That's a good question.
How many have you done?
About 6, I think. I can't remember. I'd have to go back. About 5 or 6, I think.
5 or 6.
Stop.
Yeah.
And you're already like pretty much... Eric, how did this start? How did you get in there? Because it just sounded like just like fell out of bed and went straight to the top of the ladder. Like, so like, I didn't get much of your Instagram. So I saw you did a bit of football and stuff like that. But apart from that, I'm lost here.
Yeah.
Seán was on the way back from a party and stumbled into a session that he didn't even expect. Won it. He won the fucking thing.
Yeah. But now a lot of people ask me that, like, where did it come from, all the fitness stuff? And like, to be honest with you, like, it's actually funny story. Like, my dad he passed away before Christmas there, but he's like ex-army and he's a bit of a psychopath, to be honest with you. He was an absolute psychopath. And what he used to do was, I'm not joking, when I was like 11 or 12, he'd bring me out on all these runs. I'll never forget one run. It was like, we do a 10K loop. And I was about 12 at this stage. And I was getting quicker than him. I was turning around, giving him the whole, hey, who are you? And he was like, he just kept quiet. And he was like, kept going. And he was like, let's go this way instead. I was like, well, I've never gone this way before. He's like, no, let's go this way. So it was actually a half marathon that he brought me on. It was about 11. And he dragged me around the place. And he was like, you ever shut your mouth. Don't you ever speak again. But it was a good lesson, because he was like, there's always someone better than you. And I always brought that through then, when I was competing later on. But my background basically is from when I was younger. My dad brought me on all those runs. I don't really have a huge like sporting background per se. Like, we'd play Call of Duty, and when I die and search and destroy, he'd be like, right, go on, do a few squats there, do a few arm curls. Like, that's literally where it was. Like, nothing special. Like, I did play football, like League of Ireland, and I was an underage international, but like in football, I never really got in. It was always my physical kind of capabilities. It wasn't really like, I wasn't technically that good. You know what I mean? So really my dad. I did a bit of boxing as a novice, but nothing special. Just literally 2 years ago, got into running and just kind of went from there.
And where is the crossover? Obviously, you know, some people just pass us the Maltesers while we're playing Call of Duty. You were getting squats. You were sweating.
I was getting, yeah, my dad was, he was putting on 60, 70 kg and he was like, right, go on there, son. Do a few squats. and then literally as I'm responding, I'm like throwing the thing off my back, like 1 second there. And you get me put down with tactical insertion and stuff before I do the squats, you know.
While wearing 3 bin bags and a hat as well. You
exactly.
kept adding something on each time.
Yeah.
So obviously that built up your physical development. As you went through, obviously football, we all have that dream of being a superstar footballer, and it's meant to be for some and it's meant to be for others. How did you find that in terms of the team element and the sport element? And I suppose the cutthroat nature of that underage into League of Ireland from that transition?
Yeah, like to be honest, like when I played up the north I was playing against Glentoran, actually. I was playing for Ards at the time. And I went one-on-one with the keeper. I was a striker, and I like hyperextended my knee, and I suffered ACL rupture, LCL rupture, hamstring tear. And after that, I was like, I think I was about 21, 22. But the surgeon was like, "You're actually better off getting hit by a truck." That was the amount of damage done to my knee. So after that, I went out drinking and didn't really care anymore. I just didn't have an interest in sports, and I was kind of like, I was out for so long. I ballooned up in weight. Like I show you pictures, I was over 100 kilos nearly. I was quite heavy.
Sounds so familiar.
This is everyone's story.
This is exactly what happened to me.
Whispering sweet nothings. I could have made it, but my knee injury. But that was literally it. And I stopped playing football then, and I went back playing. I just went playing as a senior, and I got into boxing then. Just as a novice, I had an exhibition fight, just getting into losing weight and trying to get back into sport. And then my sister's boyfriend, he actually mentioned, because I seconded into running then, and he was like, there's this thing called Hyrox. And I was like, what the fuck is Hyrox? You know?
Sounds like a drug.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Something you take if you have asthma.
Yeah. But that's how it started, and I signed up. I did my first one in Glasgow in I'm probably going ahead here, but I did my first one in Glasgow like February 2023, actually not that long ago. And I got my ass handed to me in that one. That was a very humbling experience. And after that, I was like, okay, how do I train for this? What do I need to do? And then that's where I kind of got the bug.
So we're talking the space of 18 months and you've done all this.
Yeah, it was, well, Dublin, from Glasgow to Dublin was a space of, I think it was it February, so November. It would have been the space of probably about 8-9 months. I went from, winning my first pro.
Oh my God.
When you did Glasgow, did you do pro or open? So
I did pro. Yeah, I did pro.
You
In Glasgow.
jumped into the hard version. You did the heavy.
Yeah, I thought I was like, oh, this is like, when you look at it on paper, it's like it does look hard, but it kind of like, oh yeah, just run 1K and then I'll get through this and I'll run another K, and then. But when you do it, it's like, it's especially like doing the pro weights, it's just humbling.
I can imagine.
It is. I'll never forget. I went out. There's the videos of Graham Halliday. He's the Elite 15 Scottish athlete, phenomenal athlete, and Tony Rebel, who I'm kind of close with now. But we went out and we literally ran our first 2Ks at 3:01, 3:02. We were on like world record pace till we got to the sled push. And I'll never forget, there was a big crowd there, and I was ahead of Graham Halliday, who was Elite 15 at the time, and I was like, oh, I'm doing unreal here. And I got to the sleds, and there was a big crowd there, and they're like, go on, Seán. And then I just literally pushed the sled, and they were like, oh. I couldn't move it. It took me about 5 minutes. I couldn't move it. But that was a learning experience, to say the least.
What was your next lap?
I actually ran the 1Ks fast enough, because I was like, I knew that there was going to be splits. I was like, just get the kilometers, and then you can go really slow on the stations.
Coming back from an injury like that, and this is the bit that I find most impressive, in the space of time you've gone from that level to Dublin, you've come back from a serious injury as well. Part of me when I get, and Sean can verify, he was there for some days when I couldn't even, because mine was back, yours is knee, equally as frustrating. Like I wouldn't even cross the road without hurting and this. And it took a long time mentally.
Yeah.
How was it for you transitioning back into sport? I know we kind of glossed over it. You did at Leinster Senior back into soccer, but that's a big part of mental toughness. How did you find that transition back into fitness?
I initially tried to get back playing at the same level. Like I was playing in the top league up the north. I signed for Dungannon, and to be honest with you, I went back way too soon. I was very hesitant the first 3 months. I didn't want to injure it again because it was like a year rehab, and in my head I was like, if I injure this again, like just the notion of going through all the rehab and the operation, and I was very hesitant. It was definitely a mental struggle, and also I wasn't the same fitness. I wasn't, I didn't have the same love for it anymore because I don't know. I felt mentally I didn't have the urge anymore.
It's one of those when you see the tackle coming and you're kind of like,
exactly. I was pulling out. I was like, I don't need this.
Yeah. It's and from that then moving into the boxing, obviously your knee is a little bit stationary, you're static, you're fit, you're working on your strength, you're running, everything. It's a natural kind of all-round fitness game, and with the risk of being punched very severely in the face. So
that was very humbling as well. I was training down in Celtic Warrior. It's a professional boxing gym in Cardiff, and they had a few like professional boxers and a few novices, and like when you get in sparring, like you have these notions, but you just get the head boxed off you every time. I was walking in there like, why am I doing this? Just getting my head punched off me for about 3 years. It was brilliant.
It's one thing about boxing as well that it's kind of the most instant feedback on your own ability, I suppose is the best way of putting it. And you've no one else to blame but yourself.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So when I was boxing, I said, okay, I'm not going to be a professional boxer, but I had notions where I was decent. I knew I was decent at running, and I knew I had a few things. I was thinking I definitely need to do an individual sport because it's all up to you at the end of the day. When you're in the ring, if you don't prepare properly, or it's entirely up to yourself. You can't turn around and say, I can manage, or didn't do this, or So that's what I really loved. Like I fought on one show and I loved it. Like it's all about you. And I know you have a trainer, but it's based on your own preparation.
And then from there, getting the head kicked off you fell straight to the Hyrox stuff and just
hooked onto the hardest event. I was getting out of that quick. Yeah.
When you did the Hyrox in Glasgow, and then you did the pro, the sled's not moving, did you know people there and got into a crew with Hyrox and like a group of lads start training with them to lead towards Dublin? Or was there ever a thought of maybe I should, like someone who died doing a marathon might go, well, maybe I should do a 5K first and build back up to that and then do the lighter weights in the sled and build? Or was like, no, I need to get back on that heavy sled in the race and go from there? What was your thought process after Glasgow?
In fairness, I have to give Tom Hogan a bit of credit here because I did reach out to Tom and I was down training once or twice and trying to figure out, like, I hadn't a clue even technique wise. And like, I had the fitness. I knew I had the fitness because when I was running around that track, I was looking at Graham Halliday and I was looking at these athletes and they were breathing heavy and they were going very fast, but they were breathing heavy. And I was like, I'm actually not as bad as some of them. But then I knew I didn't have the specific technique and, the pacing element, because for the pro event, the pacing element of it is huge, So I reached out to Tom, actually, to be honest, and I was training with Tom a program by Tom for a few months. And then I veered away and I started to kind of look at other athletes, what they were doing, look at Rich Diaz, look at some of the Americans, just talking to them, seeing what works best. And then through trial and error, I figured out this is what works best for me and how I'm getting results. And I kind of went from there.
Is that more running or strength based that works for you?
Both. So when I started Hyrox, when I did my first pro event, I probably had a 10K of about 35-ish, which was good. And then my most recent 10K was 32.50 there. I did it. It was a week ago.
That's clipping.
And that's at 86 kilos as well. So I was probably lighter when I did the one at 30. Like when I started Hyrox initially, I was probably a bit lighter and I put on a bit more muscle. So yeah, the 32, I don't think I'll get much quicker than that. I'm kind of happy. It's just a matter of being a bit more efficient on the stations, because you can run those splits, but when you go into a station and if, like I keep telling everyone with Hyrox, it's definitely based on your threshold running, like the best athletes in the world, what they do is they run their laps at recovery rate, but their recovery rate is quite fast, and they go into the stations fresh. They annihilate the stations out and they go back on the run, and the run is like recovery.
It's an amazing concept that a 3-minute kilometer is a recovery, or a 3:40 or a 3:40, whatever the individual is.
Yeah, but it's interesting because like I was in there with the lads in Trinity. They're doing a study now in Hyrox, Neil Fleming and stuff, and they brought me in, and they went from, in Ireland, from the elite side down to the intermediate, down to the beginner, and they're releasing a paper on it. They were trying to determine what's the biggest indicator for performance in Hyrox, because it's such a new sport. And they basically said, for me anyway, my lactate threshold was a lot higher than the other people that were doing it, even though their VO2 was actually higher than me in some cases. And they said the biggest kind of indicator was your lactate threshold, and the fact that I'm weighing 86 kilos. So it's literally, I'm getting onto the sleds and I'm weighing at a decent, weighing a decent amount, and I'm able to run then a high kind of lactate threshold.
And it's like fine tuning an F1 car. You need to have the weight to participate in the stations.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to carry that weight over 1K and do it so many times. It's frustrating, I'd say, for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of this transition, and again, I go back to the injury, because did you feel an element of freedom moving into this, that you could move and not be worried of an injury? You were building strength, you were putting on size, you were eating well. How do you feel about that element now, as you're starting to really push your body now again? But in a good way. Obviously you're feeling it now, but how was that transition into this?
Yeah, well, the one thing I'd say about, for me, the knee injury, any lateral movement was an issue. With straight line running, it really gave me a bit more kind of confidence. I kind of knew how to push my body a little bit more in a straight line. But yeah, like initially it was, again, starting off with a slow kind of pace, like low amount of volume, and just building it and gaining confidence each week. Each week I turn around and say, all right, that wasn't that bad. Let's push a little bit more next week. If it felt bad next week, I'd pull back, and then I'd just go again until I get to the point where mentally I was in a good place and I could push it,
That's the great thing about Hyrox, is there's no surprises in terms of, it's like a CrossFit. You walk up and then there's like a different kind of challenges. Like, oh, is my knee actually able for this mad deep squat with a barbell up over my head? Or like you're not like football, where all of a sudden you didn't expect to make a turn or something like that. You know your laps, you know what you have to do in the sled, and keep going from there. When you lined up at the start of Hyrox Pro Dublin, did you know you were in a shot of winning it, or what was your mindset when you lined up there to start the race?
I did and I didn't. So I felt like, training wise, I improved a lot, but then like I knew I wasn't great at the wall balls. I knew I wasn't great at burpees, and I know there's some athletes in the UK that, like, if you're not good at wall balls and you're not good at burpees, they can run pretty quick, and they could potentially beat me that day. But yeah, I didn't really know, to be honest with you. It was very much a test. It was my first proper race where I was not a contender, but I was kind of felt I was half decent at it at the time. But like when I went around Dublin, I went out way too quick. I remember there was a few people watching. They were like, what the hell is going on? I went out way too quick. Went on the skier, pulled the skier way too quick. I was on the sled like a minute before anyone else. And as I was getting into the sled, I started to cramp on my right side. And I was like, oh shit. I knew I was
that's early.
I was in big trouble. So that kind of, for me, like, people ask me my best performance in like London and stuff. Like, I coasted through London, but for me, Dublin was definitely, even though it was a very like slow time in comparison to other races, I just suffered so much in Dublin. I was at like 180 heart rate for the whole thing, I just suffered and just kept going. I remember saying to my girlfriend, because she kind of, she was giving up a lot of sacrifice for me to train, and I just wanted to say, like, oh, look, I won something. At least I can give something back for all the sacrifice. So that's what really motivated me in Dublin. And I just kept thinking, you have to win, you have to win, you have to win. It doesn't matter if you're feeling you have a stitch, keep going,
Can I ask about the tactics on that? Because although everyone knows what's happening, there is a tactical thing, because you get to a station a minute ahead of someone. They either have to decide, I'll wait them out and see, or they have to start working harder to try and keep up, and then it's a case of which horse can stay out in front. Is that something you intend on? You, if it worked in Dublin, I know you suffered a lot more, but on the tactical level, what kind of thought process goes into it on your end?
Yeah, so like for me, I race very tactically now. Anyone like in London, a lot of people kind of like London was definitely my coming out party in Hyrox, if you want to say. So like when I went to London, I went out and like I remember the skier and the sled push. Like I was like ninth going as a skier because I completely changed my tactics. I was like, I'm going to run slower, like below threshold. I'm going to let all these people go out like maniacs. And I went in like ninth. Then I went to the sled push like sixth. I pushed it well, but didn't push it too much. And I'm very good at the sled pull is my thing. And I went into sled pull fresh. And I went in at like fifth place and came out a minute and a half ahead of the second. And the race is over. The race is finished. It was done. Like I got to the rower, and I'll never forget it. Ray Shah, he was there, one of my mates, and I was rowing. I was at about 500 meters, and no one even came in. I was like, did I miss a station or something? What's going on here?
Wow.
You know what I mean? I was at like, I think I was 600 meters before second place came in London. But yeah, it's tactics. Like if I went out quick on the skier and the sled push, I know my race wouldn't have went the same way.
How does that feel when you're sitting on a rowing machine? You've seen the numbers and you realize you're that far ahead. Is there a part of you that enjoys? Do you enjoy the last?
For me, that was probably my best. Like in sport, that was probably my best moment in sport because you're at an event like London was the biggest ever Hyrox, like from a participation point of view. And I was sitting on a rower and I'm 2 minutes ahead of second place on a rower. And that for me was a big, like, you know, all that hard work for the last year. Now you're seeing it. And like these people, some of these are professional cyclists, ex-professional cyclists, professional, you know, they're in triathlons. And I was out drinking 4 years ago, like weighing 100 kilos. You know what I mean? I was playing Call of Duty with my dad back in the day. I wasn't doing anything, like, you know. And then I'm on a rower. I was like, what's going on here? Like, is it that easy, or you know? But it's not. It's just I just felt the last year I just put the head down and really, really, really focused. You know.
The mindset you must have had for London. So I was looking at the splits and the average splits you did for London. You went out at a 4:01 pace for the first lap, and it was like the average was 3:22. Your last lap, lap 8, and this is mind blowing because you said the row you're so far ahead. There's still 4 stations left. You're still around the 3:30 or something. I haven't got that number there, but your last lap before the wall balls, which you said is one of your hardest. 100 wall balls and 9 kilo ball. If you don't think that's difficult talking about it, you haven't done it before. It is. I've only done 6 kilo there recently for a minute. Oh, sorry, for 100. I died at death. I couldn't believe the cardio, the legs, the shoulders, everything. So I think you 9 kilos pro, is it?
Yeah, 9 kilos. Yeah.
Your lap 8, knowing you're well in front, you ran at 3:11.
Yeah, no, but I'd have to say the last lap was a little bit shorter than the.
Oh, okay. Still, though, that's a hell of a pace.
Yeah, no, it was shorter. So, like, what I tell people for like tactics wise, I pull my last run. So when I go into the wall balls, I pull the last run because I want to be fresh. Because I'll gain more time on the wall balls than I will say if I run a 3:30 or 3:25 like a threshold. So if I pull the last lap by 15 seconds, I'll gain 40 seconds on the wall balls. So I can't remember exactly how long the last lap was, but it definitely was shorter because the first lap was longer.
Right. I was wondering because I was looking going 3:11 because I'd heard
I definitely didn't run
don't pull back.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't run a 3:11. Yeah.
That's fair. Thinking of that where you pull back 15 seconds before doing wall balls. For those listening that are doing Dublin, do you have any other tactics apart from that? And at the get-go, I suppose, it sounds like a 5K as in don't get lost in the crowd. Don't go too far ahead of yourself and get lost in that shuffle. Stick to your own race strategy. Is there any other stations that pop to mind straight away? You go, people keep talking and messing this part up.
Yeah, like I've done a few seminars and like I keep telling everyone this, like when you really get down to it, this is an endurance event. This is the best athletes are going to be endurance athletes. And like as these like, you know, world champion triathletes come into the sport, they're going to be the ones that are going to take over 100% because this is an endurance event. And like you have to think of your pace should be like a half marathon pace, especially if you're doing singles like a pro. People think, I can run a 5K at this, 10K at this. that's my average kilometer. That it's not going to be the case. You could do the first 2 like that, and then you're just going to blow up. So what I will say is with the ergs, one thing that I find helps is if you do your ergs at your first 400 meters on the erg, so it's 1 kilometer ski erg and 1 kilometer row. Your first 400 meters, I do fast. When I say fast, that's like my average over 2 kilometers. And then I go very slow for 200 meters, and then I go fast and then slow. And what happens is the ergs are designed to jack your heart rate up. When you go fast, it increases really, really fast, and then when you go slow, it steadies. Your body thinks it's just it's a steady like aerobic exercise. But if you just keep one pace, your body doesn't know the difference, and it just goes into anaerobic state. So I'd recommend for people to give up a few seconds on the ski erg or the ergs and use it more as recovery, and use that kind of like we're working for a minute, we're pulling back, because you're going to gain way more time on the sled pull, the burpees, the lunges, and the wall balls if you do that and pace it properly.
Because it's so new, it's mad, all the different tactics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you think these times are going to keep dropping as more and more athletes come in, or are we at a point now where it's starting to peak and they're starting to round off these times? Like, I know it's been around for a while, but I mean, Dublin, it was very easy to get a ticket last year for like the first 4, 5, 6 weeks even. They were as hard as those trying to get Taylor Swift or Coldplay tickets this year, trying to get a ticket to Hyrox. It's just insane. And like London's insane, 4 or 5 days. Like, is there going to be a new level of athletes coming in like that you're thinking already ahead of yourself to try and compete with? Or are we near roughly the top level?
Well, there is an element of, because it does take experience to perform at a certain level. So I do think you're going to have your top athletes like Ronkovic and Hunter. They're still going to be there, I think, for the next 2 or 3 years. But there is going to be a huge group of athletes that are going to take over this, and you're going to hear of people that you've never heard of before, because the money is starting to come into the sport, and they're going to take over. Like if you get young people that are 17, 18 that are starting to train for Hyrox, by the time they're in their mid-20s to late 20s, you're not going to touch them. You're not going to get near them, because they're going to have years and years and years advantage over the likes of myself that started when I was 27 or 26. If someone starts when they're 16 or 17, they're going to destroy people that are in at the moment, you know. So as a younger generation gets into Hyrox, they're just going to, destroy people.
If you're 17 or 18, listen to this podcast, take mine and Sean's advice. Be a footballer, go to college, drink loads.
That's it.
And we'll see you when you're 27.
Don't do Hyrox,
Just before that, just on that topic of the 17, 18-year-old or people who are listening to this, like myself, similar backgrounds. I've never considered Hyrox. I probably will never compete against the upper levels, but I'd like to think I'd be good at being in the average levels. How do you get started? And again, it's something we always say, and a lot of these things you need to be fit to start, or I can't compete with these guys and girls, they all look so well, and then the body dysmorphia kicks in because you're walking around with the Avengers with all their kit off.
Yeah.
How do you get into this sport and not be intimidated?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm intimidated, but I look like a child next to some of these lads. I'm not even messing. There's a funny, actually, I didn't want to get into it, but I'll get into it now. There was a race in Madrid I got disqualified in. It's on YouTube. It's watched by about, 10,000 people are watching it at the time. You can go back and watch it. And,
no such thing as bad publicity. Let's hear this story.
Exactly, yeah. So this was after winning Dublin. And it was my first race, and I knew there was a step up in athletes. The caliber athletes that were here were higher. Like you had 1 or 2 top UK athletes at it. And I'll never forget, they were interviewing people before the race, and there was like 15 people being interviewed, like contenders to watch for. And I was like, I'm not even one of the contenders. I won a pro event. Some of these lads didn't win a pro event, but did faster times than me, you know? So I was like, what's going on here? I didn't think out of it. And I'll never forget, I was in the tunnel and I was next to a fella from the UK, and he had like veins popping out of his like neck. And I remember looking, what the hell is going on here? I felt like so intimidated. I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm going to get absolutely embarrassed. And I got into it. You can watch it on YouTube, but I was like leading the race. Me and him were going back and forth. Like everyone else was miles behind. And we got to the burpees, and a judge stopped me from like starting the burpees. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? What are you doing? What are you doing? And he was speaking Spanish because it was a Spanish judge. And I was like looking around, and there was like on YouTube, like, what's going on here, lads? What are you doing? And your man was gaining the lead. And then he was like, pardon. And then he let me go. And I was like turning around, what the hell was that about? So I kept going. But my form when I was on the burpees, I was trying to gain a bit of time, not to lose in about 30 seconds, you know? And it probably went out the window, and people were kind of criticizing my burpees. Now, I will admit, my burpees in Madrid weren't good. I was trying to gain a little bit of time because I lost it. And then I got to the wall balls, and I opened up a 90-second lead going into the wall balls. And I'll never forget it. They had a head judge, your man, the cameraman on YouTube. They had the race director, and then they had a counter, like counting my wall balls. So I went in and I started doing my wall balls, and there was actually a crowd of Irish people behind me because they were like, oh, there's an Irish lad doing well in this event. And I did about, I can't remember, 40, I think it was, near 40 or 50, I can't remember, about 40. And I turned around to get the count, and she showed me 18. I said, you're taking the piss? You're taking the piss? They're like 18. And then, because the race director said no repping for depth. And I think she took that literal, and she just literally wasn't repping me. So I was like, oh, crap. Because your man came in now from the UK, Adam, and he's really good at wall balls. And I knew he was going to beat me if it was a wall ball, like, you know, competition. So I said, right, you're going to have to try get 20 quicker. So I said, right, 20, perfect form. Let's see what happens. Turn around, and they counted 5. And I was like, what the hell is going on? What is going on? And the Spanish lad came in, who I had about 3-minute lead on this fella. He came in at this stage, and then I was like panicking, and I won't tell you what I said. I was cursing and going mad, and took off my race chip and threw it. I was really bad. Like I got disqualified. But yeah, that was Madrid. That was it. Yeah, I think they had me down. Yeah, they had me down as officially, like, I was 4th, and then they scraped it because I got disqualified because I crossed the line. They were telling me you can't cross the line, and I was like, I have to get out. There's no way of getting out unless I cross the line, you know. So yeah, that was a bad race. But that was about 3 months before London, and I was thinking, I'm not going to do one of these races again because I got messed over.
Yeah.
And then I was like, right, let's really focus now for London.
We probably can't talk much about it because you're at the start of your career, and obviously you don't shit on the place you're operating.
Yeah.
But what would the comments say on the YouTube live about?
Oh, there was a few people going back and forth, and they were like, "Oh, his form wasn't good here." Like a few people were slagging me, you know. They were like, and that really motivated me because I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, all right, my form wasn't great in the burpees, but you have to understand, I was winning the event. Like, there's no judging up until the burpee point because you're just doing sleds, ski, and running. So I was winning up until that point. So you're kind of taking the piss out of me, but you're not understanding that I'm actually in the lead here in a you know, a big event. So
what was the explanation? What was the explanation for the first stop? Why did
I asked. Tom watched the race back as well, and he thinks that they thought I was in the doubles, which makes no sense because they were going around live on YouTube, the 2 leaders, which was me and Adam, and yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, yeah, that's Madrid.
So, not your favorite place. Will you go back for revenge?
No, I was asked to go back.
With a translator?
No, not going back to Madrid. Not a chance.
I'm actually annoyed for you right now.
Yeah, no,
I don't know how you got that far. I'm snapping.
Yeah, like people say, like, oh, you won Dublin, you won London, but the one thing that's like, I keep thinking about that race in Madrid. I'm just like, I really wanted to win that race, you know. But yeah.
I'm half afraid to ask this next question because I saw one of your goals is to get into the Elite 15. And in my mind, well, if you come second in the world, surely you're in the top 15. But that's not how it works.
Yeah, so that's another thing. I'm kind of outspoken about this as well. For me, the way you enter or the way you get into the Elite 15, it's not fair in my opinion. I've raced against lads that have a lot faster times that are actually technically in the Elite 15, and I beat them in the World Championships. So they do it off time. So they take your best 2 times and they average it out. But like, for example, my time in London, like London is a very busy course. It's not a fast course. Like that's not going to get me in the Elite 15 because some lads that are racing in, say, Berlin, and like lads that race in Berlin got like a 56, 57, and then they're going to World Championships and they're getting a 62 or something. Like some lads got like a 66. Like, it's ridiculous, the discrepancies in the courses. So yeah, that's the only thing I frustrates me. Now, they are working on it. Like in the UK, they're very standardized, but some of them across Europe, like they're not 100% accurate, in my opinion.
How do you standardize a race that, like, for example, when you come into each zone, like, it's not like you're on, like, if you do a track race, you're on this lane, you're exactly the way across, and that's it. When you're doing a Hyrox event, when you come in, you're on a different ski, and then maybe you're on the first ski. It's like, oh, that's great. But then the exit of ski is a little bit further, and these kind of things. And there's different loops everywhere. Like, so it, like, is it something that can be standardized? And is it something that, like for example, going back to marathons, if you want to get into Boston, you might try and get into Berlin and do a flat course and get a better chance doing it than Dublin in the hills. Is that same thing in Hyrox for people to get to the Elite 15? They're trying to get certain races that it's an easier course to get into that, as opposed to race against you, because I'm assuming going head to head with someone, like, that's a different race altogether compared to the clock. When you next to someone and you see them pushing before you in the sled and you're trying to get in the sled or whatever it is, that's what, like, an Olympic race is really all about. It's not the clock, 100%. It's the person next to you.
Yeah, like the reason why I got into Hyrox is for the competition side. I love when you have you have a man or a woman that is at the same level and they're pushing, against each other. That's what I'm in it for. For the competition side of things, I don't really care about the time. People, they go on and on about the time, and then I'm like, okay, but it's more where you finish overall, because there's huge discrepancies in the courses, and like, there's a few, like, the sleds are a big talking point in Hyrox. Like, you can go to one event, like, I'll give the example of Dublin, and like Dublin, apparently the runs were much longer than 1 kilometer because of the event size. They had to make it a little bit longer, and then like the sleds were a little, like, the carpet was a bit sticky, and like that all has a huge impact. Like Dublin, like I won Dublin at, I think it was a 66 minute. Like, that was the slowest pro time of the whole year. And then I go to London and I got 59 in London. Like, I wasn't 7 minutes faster. I was probably maybe 3 or 4, but I wasn't 7, So there is a huge discrepancy. And like, yeah, I agree. I think you should take the time element out of it. It should be based on winning races and actually competing against people, because I don't think there is a standardized course in Hyrox yet.
And that's why when you look at races like in triathlon and stuff, okay, it's always the same distance, but you can race different courses, but it's all about where you finished in them races, and you have to clock so many races within a year to be registered for a ranking. And
exactly, I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah. Like, I think it should be based on, okay, if you've won a pro event or won 2 pro events, you should be ranked at a much higher level than someone that's like some people in the Elite 15, they came like 6th or 7th in a pro event, but because their time is a lot better than, say, mine or someone else's, they're in the Elite 15.
And if you're in the Elite 15 now and you're listening to the podcast, because we're the biggest podcast in the world, and we're listening to you saying you shouldn't be there, what does that mean for them? And what does that mean for you? Is there much conflict in terms of the competitiveness, or what is it like between athletes?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say like anyone in the Elite 15 shouldn't be in the Elite 15, because like at that level now, they 100% should, they deserve it. It's just, I feel it should be more about racing rather than time. But like the athletes that are in the Elite 15, I'd say the top 10 100% will be in the Elite 15, because they are the best athletes. There's probably 5 or 6 that they'll chop and change, Yeah, like,
and what's the competitiveness like when you're looking, like, in every sport? You see it in Formula One when they're just waiting to take your seat. There's just someone waiting. Same in every sport. Same in soccer. There's always someone putting their boots on. Yeah. There's always the next person. Is there that competitive edge for that level of the Elite 15? Yeah,
like there's I've got to know a few people, like I'm friendly with a few lads I compete against, but then as soon as you compete, like, it's like a boxer going into a fight. Like, just go in and it's, I don't know you. I'm warming up. I'm not talking to you. I'm going out there and it's, me or you. I'm going to do my best and hopefully beat you. Yeah, for me, it's like I see myself as like, you have to be aggressive. Like I race aggressively. You have to be aggressive when you get there. There's no friendship. You have to go out and just be competitive.
I saw they made a few rule changes this week, so maybe they are, because it's still a growing sport, maybe they are looking ways to try and make it better. And like you said, it could be a case where they have, like Eric had, maybe more of a ranking system down the line. But going more specific on those rule changes, is there anything there that popped out for you that went, "Ooh, I can take advantage of this rule," or they were just generic enough rules that there's not much there in them?
The sled pull rule, I think is a good change because it's not really fair. Like Sandy, who came second in the Elite 15, he was penalised. So basically, if you step on the line twice, they can make you pull it 5 meters and then pull it back. And it's like a 45 second. It's actually the worst penalty you can get. Now they've changed it just to pull it 5. So yeah, I think that's a good change. The rest, it's fairly similar. Like I don't think it'll make much of a difference. I do think Hyrox, before I kind of went off bashing them about the time element, they are working on it. They are improving. It's a new sport. It's growing. Like they put on these events and they're exceptional. Like they go on time. They're incredible events. Like they're all extremely well organized, like really well run. But just from a competitive point of view, getting in the Elite 15, and I just feel like they could make it a little bit more about racing rather than the time. That's the only thing I'd say.
Are you training for Dublin?
Yeah.
In your training leading up to Dublin, do you focus more on because it is an endurance sport, so and your times are for 10K 32 minutes is phenomenal. So do you make it more endurance based, or do you have more, like I've heard Hunter McIntyre, one of the American guys, talk about he's all in on strength and heavy squats and deadlifts and stuff, or is it more specific to the exercises? Okay, I'm doing wall balls, so I do wall balls in my training. I do walking lunges instead of heavy barbell lunges or split squats. How do you roughly dictate your training, like 12 to 15 weeks out from an event like this?
Before you answer, Seán, are you doing Dublin?
No, I'm doing Dublin. I'm down there as a social media guy to watch some friends and gym members suffer throughout it. So I was there last year.
I was just wondering why you took out a notepad there and told Seán just to talk real slow. And if you wouldn't mind telling me, Seán, what breakfast and what jocks do you wear?
Yeah.
Will you let the man answer the question, damn it?
Fuck's sake, Seán, it was a good question. You might as well give him the answers he's looking for.
Yeah. So yeah, like training 12 weeks out, like I coach a few people, and like it's not complicated. It's not complicated. It's not rock science. I think there is a lot of people out there that try to complicate it, that don't know what they're talking about. Like it's very simple. Like all the best athletes in the world, it's all the same. You need to have a running block. You need to have a strength block. Separate them, because like if you focus on your running, it's one energy system over the other. So if you focus on your running, you're going to develop that energy system, develop your strength. And then 6-8 weeks out, combine the two into Hyrox kind of specific movements. And that's it. I wouldn't recommend doing a lot of simulations, because I feel like new people getting into the sport, they're doing way too many simulations. Like you're not going to get better at Hyrox doing a simulation, because you're going to run at the same threshold pace. You're going to ski at the same threshold. You need to be doing like interval runs. You need to be doing interval skis. You need to be like attacking specific stations, like going from a run to a sled pull, doing that 3 or 4 times, building up that resistance, rather than just doing simulation after simulation. So yeah, I'd say just take it in blocks. I take a running block, I take a strength block, and then a couple of weeks out, combine the two.
What's your thoughts on compromise running for like strength training, for example, 40 minutes and then going out for a run afterwards? Or do you like, is that just, no, get your Hyrox 6 to 8 weeks out like you're talking about, and then get your running block in and strength in the off season? Or what way do you, what do you think of that?
I think people they put too much of an emphasis on compromised running. If you can't run at a certain pace, your threshold pace is say 4-minute kilometer. You're never going to be running fast in a 4-minute kilometer, because that's your threshold pace. So if you develop your threshold pace, and then you go out and you're running below threshold, you're going to recover very fast, and then you're going to get up to threshold. So I'd recommend people focus on your threshold pace rather than compromise running pace. Because I hear this too much in Hyrox. Like my compromise running is really good, but in reality, you're never going to be running above threshold, because it's physically impossible to stay at that while you're doing a Hyrox or while you're doing a race, because you only have a very limited amount of time that you can stay above threshold,
And it's one of those training smarter, not harder. It's exactly. It's a realistic.
Yeah, like again, people are killing themselves in training. Like when I started Hyrox, I was absolutely going to war every single session, doing a Hyrox kind of style session. I don't do that. I do I do 2 or 3 slow runs. I do my interval sessions. I do my interval skis. I have 1 or 2 hard sessions that I have to go hard, but the rest is easy because you can't kill the body like that. The body will only take so much. You have to be clever in how you train. You know, you have to train hard for the days that you're training. It has to be really hard, but then you have to have easy days as well.
Was taking all these notes. Sorry about that.
Seán. And like I said, I'm new to this, and this is like, if anyone tells you they know what they're talking about in Hyrox, they are talking crap because they don't. This is just from my own experience, trial and error. There's people like I like listening to Anthony Persini. He's a coach in the US. I think he's really, really good on Hyrox. I listen to a lot of his stuff. Rich Diaz, another US coach, and like there's a lot of people out there that have way, way more knowledge. There are years in this. I'm just from a trial and error point of view. That's the only feedback. I'm not qualified to give any other advice or nutrition advice. Or people ask me about nutrition, I was like, I haven't a clue. I haven't a clue. I'm eating chocolate.
Fueling the body.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I need to get into Hyrox. I really do.
It sounds better now, doesn't it?
It sounds so much better.
Yeah.
Is it cool to be a part of something that is exploding? Like, is it cool to be peaking with something that is only getting bigger and you are getting better with it?
Yeah, like the opportunities that I'm getting now, like I'm sponsored now by Perform Nutrition, and there's another, I just sent the contract over. Well, I haven't agreed yet, but there's another potentially big sponsor I'm going to sign with hopefully next week. But like, I can't believe that. I'm like sponsorship. I couldn't see it. Like I always hear people getting sponsors. Like what? But like that's unbelievable. I couldn't dream in a million years that someone would be interested in sponsoring me. So it's obviously on the up, and people want to get involved. But like the fact that people are reaching out and saying we want to sponsor you, we want to send you over. Would you be interested in doing this? That for me is like I pinch myself. Like I'm at the end of the day, I see myself as literally an average gym goer, nothing special. Like running, and then like doing competitions. So it's unbelievable the opportunities that it's given me at the moment.
You wanted to play for Ireland. You were in the underage. You done this, representing and being Irish in these competitions and winning them. How proud does that make you? How do you compare it? And how do you see it going over the next couple of years?
That's why I compete. Honestly, it's because like Tom Hogan, I give Tom his dues. Me and Tom are the only 2 Irish athletes, and there will be more. There will be more this season, 100%, that have gone sub 60 in the pro. He holds the record for the fastest. I know at the time I was close enough in London, and I think he was about 58:15 or something, 58:20. So that's the goal, to beat Tom. But I want to represent Ireland, and I want to be competitive in Elite 50. No Irish athlete, like I give Tom his dues, but no Irish athlete has been competitive in Elite 15. So I want to not just get in, but I want to be competitive, and I want to race with an Irish flag on my shoulder and be a proud Irishman. That's what it's all about. Like I'll go into these Elite 15 and they all have tattoos and different stuff. I'll have a tattoo of an Irish flag on my shoulder.
Pass. I saw the Irish team doing the relay. It looked really cool. The relay World Championships are in this year, and just seeing all the different teams, the countries, the strategies, and because it was new, I'm sure it's going to evolve. But it just seemed like something that it was really fun to watch.
I know Barry Watkins was competing, and obviously Tom, I was chatting to him, and they did great. Some of the teams, like they had Olympic level athletes going in there doing like they specialize in say skiing and rowing, and it was phenomenal to watch. It was really good.
Any kind of interest in that kind of thing, or just I'm the solo guy? Like I know Tom talked about he did doubles before, and at one time he had doubles world record. When you're doing these seminars and you're training people, all right, do you ever have my eye on that person maybe for a double sometime and might do that, or we might get a team together to do one of these events down the line, or are you just too competitive? It's like this has to be me taking on all 8 stations.
There's another guy in the UK, Ollie Fricker, and me and him are we've agreed we're gonna do a doubles. He's another guy that's on the kind of nearly getting into Elite 15. He won Copenhagen Pro, so me and him are going to team up, and they just announced actually Elite 15 doubles there during the week.
Oh wow!
So,
That's interesting in a couple of ways, because that could shift people's priorities in terms of
like there's athletes out there that they'll never really be competitive in the singles event, but they're very good doubles because it's a different race completely. It suits a lot kind of a leaner athlete, I feel, because you can run faster. You don't have to pace as much. So yeah, it changes everything really.
And would that interest you, or for now it's singles? For now,
for me,
and then
for me the focus is definitely singles. Like I feel, I'll be stronger as a singles, but if me and Ollie can do our best and see how we get on, but yeah, it'll be hard because there's a few lads out there that are really, really good.
Does it add a fun element though, that you're not just suffering on your own? Is it nice to
I say to everyone, I think the doubles is much better than the singles. Like every time I do a singles, I'm like, why the hell am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? There's something wrong with you, Seán. And then afterwards, you're like, I'm going to do another one. But the doubles is a lot more fun. Like you can go out quick. You can suffer a lot more on the doubles. If you have two people that are similar, you can suffer a lot more because there's no pacing. It's just go hell for leather until you finish. But it's great. You're suffering with someone else, and the camaraderie that you get out of that is, it's different than the singles.
Just with the doubles, when you're doing the runs, you have to be side by side within a certain distance from each other. Because I can see Eric get a twinkle in his eye. I just want to get this out of the way. Like,
yeah,
come on, Seán.
Yeah. I don't think you need to be beside each other on like around the track. But when you go into the stations, you have to be beside each other. So like you can run, say, your 2 laps and complete your kilometer and not go in. Just wait until your partner gets catches up and then go in. You just have to cross the in at the same time. That's all.
Interesting. If Eric, you're willing to wait on me and go all speed.
yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna have to start lifting weights. So, Seán, are you giving out any free training packs there for 2 podcast people to play over?
Seán, if someone is listening and is interested in getting your training, obviously it's a little bit late from the train towards Dublin, but the way they sold out 3 days, they're definitely gonna do this again. And I'm going myself to Frankfurt, and I know people that are going to Malaga next year. It is one of those things where more and more people are using it as almost like a fitness holiday weekend to go over, do a Hyrox event and just enjoy a weekend, like a city break in a new city. Yeah. So someone's thinking of that and they're looking at the different events coming on next year, but they want to be trained by you. How do they get trained by you?
Yeah, so like very simple. They can just reach out on Instagram, just DM me saying, give me a background and what they're training for, what event they're training for, and I can go from there. Like I say to a lot of people, like I'm not trying to take people in and keep them training with me for months on end. I just want to give someone an opportunity to learn how to train for Hyrox. Like I have different levels of elite like caliber athletes. I have beginner athletes. I just want to get them into a good training regime. Some people just want the accountability side of things. So just reach out. I can structure their program. And for me, everything is personalized. It's not a copy and paste job. I go into paces, actual paces, and I take into account injuries and stuff like that. So yeah, just reach out and we can go from there.
And any last minute tips for those doing Dublin that will be coming the next probably 5-6 weeks from when this one drops?
Yeah. You just enjoy it. I'd say people put too much pressure. Like my first one, I put way too much pressure, and I was nowhere. I wasn't going to win the event. I wasn't going to get anywhere near winning the event. So enjoy it. You've paid to be there. Enjoy the training and enjoy the event. Don't put too much pressure. Just go out and enjoy it, and don't worry about the time. Don't worry about the time. That's the one thing I'd say. People, they do a simulation. They're like, I'm going to get this time. I'm going to get this time. The simulations are completely different than actual competition. Just go out, enjoy it, and judge your performance by your overall finish or your age group finish.
Yeah, it's a class event. It's great atmosphere for the event. Probably close to get to do an Ironman since I can't swim. But it is that great buzz and feedback throughout the day. Like when I was there the Saturday, well, it was only one day in Dublin last year. Like it was absolutely buzzing throughout most of the day. Like it was really cool.
Yeah, I say this to a lot of people. Like Dublin wasn't actually a good representation of Hyrox because
heard that
it wasn't the best events that they've ran. Like if you go to these UK events, these German events, they're unbelievable. Like the atmosphere, the way they run. I felt Dublin, there was too many people there, and I think they're after rectifying that by, I think it's 3 days now, and I think they're after getting a bigger hall. But yeah, it's the atmosphere is unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it's really good, really good. But best of luck to you coming up in Dublin, and best of luck doing the pro and everything else, and getting towards the Elite 15.
Yeah,
Seán,
appreciate having me on, lads, and thanks very much.
This isn't going to be the last time we'll chat to you, and probably not the last time we'll hear from you as well. We're so grateful that you gave us the time. We are going to watch your career over the next little while. Very interestingly, I'm going to get a training program after you as soon as we stop recording, and I'm going to beat Seán, my Seán. I'm going to beat.
We've only got a marathon comp to do first.
That's it. It's going to be brilliant. But look, I've no doubt that everyone around you who's watching it do it is very proud of what you're doing. You are doing the country very proud. You're doing your family proud, everyone proud. It's great to watch your progression, and it is skyrocket. Like, you're from zero to hero, and it's great. But keep it going, and I've no doubt even podcasts like this, people are going to find out more about you and the great things that you're doing in the sport, and it's really amazing to watch. And we're so grateful you gave us the time, and hopefully maybe in a couple of months we might get you back on for a check-in after a couple of your events and see how you're doing.
100%. Appreciate it, lads. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for your time.
And that's it for myself, Seán, and Eric. Take care.